Is it going now?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, when we lived in Sarachui, our whole life revolved around horses and pack mules. And we either had to go on foot where we went, or ride mules or horses. And the difference between a mule and a horse, the horse was a lot smoother and faster, and the mules, of course, were more sure-footed, and they were better for cargo. But I remember one time I needed to go to Valledupar, and I can't remember exactly why I needed to go to Valledupar. And I went by way of Jordan. That's where Mary Fraser and Ruth Huber were. And I went over there, and from there went down to Valledupar. And on this particular occasion, I went down on Apache. And Apache was a fighter. He was not castrated, and so he was not a gelding, and he was a stallion. And I don't remember a whole lot about the trip down. I just remember that it was pretty fast, and it was a good trip. This was the second time I had done it. I forget what I said there earlier. I had done it previously on Negro, the big black mule that we had. But on my trip with Apache, spent the night at the Powell's, and Harry Powell and Norma were very fussy. Everything was very clean and orderly and just right and everything. And when you get to Valledupar, there are a lot of guys that have little horse and buggies, and they do hauling for you. And but they don't have pastures. And so there are guys that go out of town and cut this long grass and bring it in, and they sell it in bunches that big around of real tight packed grass. So I bought a pack of grass, and right inside of Harry's, where he pulled into the backyard with his truck, pulled the truck in a lot further, and I put Apache behind that. There was a tree there, a mango tree, and I remember getting him some Purina horse food, and tied him there. And during the night, he didn't eat much grass, but he ate all the leaves off of Norma's mango tree.
Oh, no.
And she was really upset. And he was able to reach some of the flowers along the back of the house. And Apache really enjoyed it. So, then the next day, when it was time to go back home, I decided I was going to go up the road. When I went down, I went from Jordan, which follows the river down, and then there's another road that isn't transitable, is that the word, by vehicles, and I went down that way. But going up, I went up, and it was so hot, and it's all dirt road, and it's low down, and it was really hot, and I came to Rio Seco. Rio Seco means dry river, right? And of course it's not dry, it's really shallow river, it's pretty wide. And right as you cross the river on the other side, it's where the line cars would always stop and you'd get a cold Pepsi. So they had a fence there about 6 feet high of like bamboo. And so I wrapped the rope around the bamboo fence, went in and had a Pepsi. And I'm inside this little cantina type place drinking a Pepsi. And I hear all kinds of racket and everything, and hear the horses were fighting. Patch had spotted another horse that was also not castrated. The two of them tore down the fence. The other one was on the other side of that bamboo fence. They were kicking at the fence and pulled the fence. They just about destroyed that guy's fence, and he was a little upset. But anyway, I got on Apache and went the rest of the way home. Now, I'll tell you the other story. The previous story, I went down on Negro, and Negan, we called him Negan, went down on Negan, and he was a good mule, and he was a long-distance mule. And when I got down there, Pals were not living there. Chema Onyate lived there. And Chema Onyate was the pastor of a church in Valledupar. And what did we do? Chinook followed down. I guess it was Chinook or Grizz, one of our two dogs, went down with me. You know, and you couldn't sneak away from the house. And he caught up with me, I don't know where, halfway down or out somewhere along the road. He caught up with me. And this is, I mean, we're talking 35 miles or more down. And so Grizz caught up with me, and so what are we going to do with him? And they locked him in the bathroom. And so he spent the night in their bathroom, but he didn't spend the night. He clawed a hole through the bathroom door. There's these hollow doors are real thin plywood. And he clawed a hole right through the door and got out. And he didn't like being in there. And Negan was along the side of the house tied, and he ate all the flowers and everything. So we decided after that from henceforth, yea, verily, even forevermore, we're not going to ride horses and mules to Valledupar. Every time it was a disaster.